Welcome back to week 2 of our cooking series with the Missoula Public Library. We are showing you how to make some Christmas gifts, and this week we're going to focus on gifts that kids can make. So we're going to look at some easy ones that don't require a lot of baking and hot things or sharp things, so that all you kids out there can make Christmas gifts for your family members. And this year it's especially hard to get out and go shopping, so this is a really easy way for kids to have some ownership over, the gifts they're giving to their loved ones. So we are going to start out by melting some chocolate. And there's 2 different ways that you can melt chocolate. You can melt chocolate in a double boiler, which means that you put a little bit of water in the bottom of a pot, and then you put another kind of pot in the top. Okay. Sometimes your parents might even have a double boiler that actually fits in here. This is just a bowl and a pot that happen to fit together really well. So you put a little bit of water. And then the water creates steam, and then the steam is heating up the bottom of this bowl, and that heats up the chocolate, and that keeps it from scorching to the bottom of your pot. This way, if you forget about it for a little bit and you walk away, you're not going to come back to a bunch of burnt chocolate on the bottom. So you put that in there. You turn your burner on. Perfect. I still wouldn't probably turn it on to high heat. I would still keep it on kind of medium high heat. We have some baker's chocolate here that we've cut up, almond bark that we've cut up. Sometimes this melts a little better than chocolate chips, but you can totally do this with chocolate chips as well. Chocolate chips just have a little bit of a wax coating on them, and so sometimes they don't melt quite as well. But at home, I always use chocolate chips because I don't want to go to the store and get this. So if that's what you have, use them. We are also not going to worry today about tempering chocolate. That's a pretty complicated process. And the stuff we're doing today, you don't need the chocolate to form the right crystal. So tempering is where you bring the chocolate up to a really exact heat, and you stop it right there, and then you cool it down to a really specific heat again, using some more chocolate. You add chocolate in, and that creates this really shiny, nice coat. So if you're trying to create something that's going to snap or have a really shiny coat to it, you have to temper your chocolate. Today, we're not going to worry about that. Yeah. It's your science lesson for the day, too. Chocolate forms all these crystals, and you have to realign them if you want it to be tempered. Okay? So that's one option for how to melt chocolate is on the stove. If you are home alone or don't have a parent to help you with the stove, another easy way to melt chocolate is in the microwave. Okay? So you need a microwave-safe bowl. You're going to put your chocolate in. Here again, I have white chocolate. White chocolate is a little bit harder to use than a darker milk chocolate because it's a little bit more finicky when it melts. So you want to be really careful that you don't get water in it or something like that, because it will seize up and kind of create a lumpy, soggy mess pretty easily. If you're looking for foolproof ways, I would use a milk or a dark chocolate, but a white chocolate in the microwave shouldn't be too bad. So.
And I think that this almond bark is a little bit more forgiving than
white chocolate chips. Yeah, white chocolate chips are probably going to be even harder than this.
Mm-hmm. Do you have to use a certain kind of bowl if you're putting it in the microwave, Rosie?
Yeah, you want to make sure your bowl says microwave safe. You also want to make real certain that you don't have any metal in your microwave. So if you're a kid at home and you're stirring it with a spoon, please don't put your spoon back in the microwave. That's pretty dangerous. All right. And because we want to make sure that we're not burning our chocolate, I would put it in for 30 seconds to a minute at a time and then stir in between. Okay? So I'm going to put mine in for a minute at the beginning, and then later on I'm going to bring it down to like 30 seconds.
Okay. So while our chocolate is melting, I'm going to show you how to make an herb ranch pretzel. And this happens to be a recipe that was my mom's, Rose's grandmother's. It's a favorite in our family. And sometimes it's nice not to have so many sweet things at Christmas time. So These are really easy to make.
Really yummy to eat.
And very yummy, yes. So you're going to just be using, and you could use a pretzel sticks if you want, but I tend to like the mini pretzel twists, okay? And the recipe calls for 30 ounces. Now, Rosie just said, you know, with the chocolate, there's these crystals that form, and so there's a scientific aspect of baking. There's also math involved in baking. And I have a bag that is 16 ounces. So I need to have 2 bags. It'll be a little bit over my 30 ounces because 16 and 16 is 32, but that's just fine for this recipe, okay? You could cut it in half too if you want and just use 1 bag if that's what you have at home, but then you have to cut all the other ingredients in half as well. So, maybe we should have a little math. Are you going to do math with me, Rose?
Some math?
Yeah. So, if one recipe, which uses 2 bags of these, calls for 1 package, okay, then how much would I use for a half a recipe?
Half a package.
Half a
Half a
package.
package.
Yeah. And if 1 package is 36 servings at 1/4 of a cup, is this getting too complicated?
Could we weigh it? If you had a scale at home, you could weigh it.
We could.
Not a scale that you stand on to weigh yourself, but if you had a little cooking scale, you could weigh your ingredients too.
Yeah. So we put our pretzels in a big bowl. We're going to use 2/3 of a cup of oil, and it can be a regular vegetable oil, or it can be a olive oil. Okay, whatever you have in your house. 1 package of ranch seasoning mix. Okay, so you can make like ranch dressing out of this. And then a tablespoon of lemon pepper. And we'll put that in with our oil. Our chocolate is starting to melt. Turn that down just a little bit. And I'm going to stir this up. And then I'm just going to pour this over the pretzels. These are kind of like popcorn. You know, like when you start eating popcorn, it's hard to quit. Oh, yeah.
You almost could put some seasoning on popcorn too if you wanted to make some seasoned popcorn.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
That would be good. Okay.
My stomach is growling just thinking about these pretzels.
And then I'm just going to take a large spoon and toss them together. And when I make these, I usually just, make them in the morning, and then throughout the day I have this on my countertop and I just give it a stir every now and then. And the oil gets absorbed into the pretzels, so they're not greasy or oily at all. And just gives a really nice flavor with the lemon pepper and the ranch. Okay. So we're going to just set those aside. And by the time we're done with our chocolate, those will be ready to eat.
So my white chocolate has been in, I've stirred it 3 times. I've done it a minute at each time. So it's in for its 4th minute here. And both of our chocolates are looking pretty good. They're getting some good melting happening. We still have some of those bigger clumps. If you do go buy the almond bark, please make sure you chop it up before you try to melt it, because if you try to melt the whole block, it's going to take a really long time and it's not going to work very well.
Ooh, that's looking nice, Rose.
I think our white chocolate is done. So it was just 5 minutes in the microwave for our white chocolate to be done. Again, when you're taking things in and out of the microwave, you want to make sure you have a hot pad or a hot holder, because it does get really warm, even though you're not using the oven. So you'll see my white chocolate here, really nice and melted. I wouldn't want to try to melt it even more because it might burn. Again, it can separate and get all gooey. But right now it's perfect. Alrighty. So we got our chocolates here.
And I'll get your pretzel sticks.
And we're going to make a few different things that are dipped in chocolate. So when you go to all the work to melt some chocolate, it's kind of fun to have a few different projects. And so we're going to use these big pretzel sticks for this one. You could use the little pretzels that we just used to make our ranch pretzels and just dip half of them or dip all of them and pull them out with a fork. I'm sure you've all had chocolate covered pretzels before. These are kind of fun because they feel a little special to have a big stick. And you can do some fun decorating with them as well.
I think it's almost getting there. We have we have two kind of chunks in there. So it won't be too much longer.
So when we're dunking our pretzel sticks, I like to leave like a little bit that we can hold on to when you're eating them. And if you have like a big glass, you could pour your chocolate in there and just dip them. Or you can just kind of swirl them around, use a spoon, get them all coated. And then I would tap them off so you don't have so much extra chocolate. And then we're putting it on some parchment paper here, or wax paper, so that we don't get everything all chocolatey and sticky. And then these are fun too because you can decorate them with all sorts of little sprinkles if you want. Maybe I want this one to have some like little green spots here, little red spots. You could also roll them in the sprinkles before you set them down so that they coat both sides. You could also do some fun things like maybe I would like to have a dark chocolate one or a milk chocolate one. And I want to do some, this could get a little messy. I want to do some little, just like that. So you can have all sorts of fun. You could probably even do one where you dip the first part in the milk chocolate and the second part in the white chocolate, have some dual layers happening. You can dip them in, here we'll make one with some peppermint candies that you can crush up. Cathy, how'd you crush those peppermint
Well, I was
candies?
just going to talk about that, Rosie. The way that I like to crush up these candies, because they can be really hard, is to go down on my basement floor, or I could go out on the sidewalk if it's not snowy, or on the front porch. I wouldn't do it on your mom's countertop or on the floor because you might cause damage, but someplace where you're not going to, hurt anything. So I leave the peppermint candies in their wrappers. I put them in a towel, Otherwise, sometimes when you hit them, they just fly. Okay? And then I take a hammer and I whap them with a hammer. And then what's really nice is they usually stay kind of intact. They crush inside here. But then when you open this up, you get your peppermint candy out. So, you know, you're not, you're keeping your candy clean because you're not putting that on the garage floor. And they're just crushed right in their little wrapper. So that's how I do it.
Nice.
Do you have a different method?
You know, I usually do that, or I put them in a plastic bag if I've already opened them, or I have them. I put them in like a Ziploc bag, and then I put them in between the towels. But if you do that, you have to make sure you got all the air out of the Ziploc bag, or it'll just pop when you hit it with the hammer.
Right. Oh, nice.
Whoop. All right.
That looks like a bit of heaven there.
Chunky one. Alrighty. So that's one way we're going to use our melted chocolate is to make pretzel sticks. These are really fun. You can wrap them up. You can put 3 or 4 in a little bag and wrap them up, tie a little ribbon around the end. And those make really good gifts. I had a student at school who gave those to all their teachers. So that can also be a really easy way for students to make a gift for their teachers or a gift for their neighbors or their friends at school. So that's one thing we can do. The next one is one that you could combine with a gift of like a mug and a little packet of hot cocoa to make a really cute gift. Sometimes I even just go to a thrift store because lots of people have given away their Christmas mugs, and find a fun Christmas mug or a fun mug at a thrift store to give people for Christmas, and then buy the little packets of hot cocoa. And then we have these really fun giant marshmallows. You could also, if you're not a fan of marshmallows, my little sister doesn't like marshmallows, you could just do this with a spoon and make the same kind of idea with a spoon that you could stir into your hot chocolate. So the idea is that this marshmallow can go on the top of your hot chocolate and help flavor your hot chocolate. So we have these giant marshmallows, and we got these little candy sticks that Cathy's getting open here. And you could try to stick the stick in before you dunk it, but I think the easier, safer way, so it doesn't fall off the stick, is to just dunk it. And then coat it with some of this candy and plop it on your parchment paper or your wax paper, and then you can stick the stick in at the end. If you find that you're having problems with the stick not staying in, you could coat the stick in chocolate before you stick it in, because then the chocolate will harden and it'll help keep that stick in place. And again, this is one that you could have a lot of fun with. You could try different types of chocolate. You could do sprinkles. I really like the chocolate peppermint because I want my hot chocolate to taste like peppermint in the winter. So that can be kind of a fun way to flavor your hot chocolate.
Those look beautiful.
And again, you could do something kind of fun where you wrap these up, just put a little saran wrap on the bottom and tie them with a little ribbon. We can show you that later once they're a little bit drier, once the chocolate has set. So, yeah.
That would almost fill the mug right there.
Yeah, you might have to not fill your mug so full with hot chocolate, but they should float at the top. You can stir it up with your little marshmallow stick. And again, if you didn't want to do it with the marshmallows, you could coat a spoon, either a metal spoon or a plastic spoon in the chocolate, dip it in some candies or some sprinkles, and then people can use that to stir up their hot chocolate. That was always one of my favorite things to do as a kid, is make the chocolate-covered spoons. And again, you could probably find some spoons at thrift stores that you could give away to your friends. So, good use for some old silverware.
That's right. So the third one is Rolo pretzels. What's not to like about a pretzel and a Rolo combined with a little bit of chocolate? Delicious.
We've used every type of pretzel today, I think.
No, we didn't use the little sticks.
The little sticks.
Yeah, the little sticks. So these we're going to use the, what kind would you call those? Snap pretzels.
They remind me of waffles.
Snap pretzels. I wonder why they're called snap pretzels. There you go.
So there's these little pretzels. They kind of look like a gridiron. And we have a sheet tray here, and again, some parchment paper, wax paper. Parchment paper this time, where they go in the oven. That's parchment paper, yep. Yep, so with this one, you don't want to put wax paper in the oven, so use parchment paper. The wax paper will melt and will smoke and will catch on fire, but this paper, parchment paper, is safe to go in your oven.
Parchment paper, I don't think is a wood product paper. It's instead made of corn. And so you use it a lot for cake decorating because it doesn't absorb the grease like, regular wood pulp paper does. Yeah. These you can make a whole bunch at one time because you just put them on your cookie sheets. This one you might want to ask a parent to help with putting it in the oven and taking it out, but I bet you can do the rest. Okay, so these are Rolos. Rolos are those candies that have caramel on the inside, chocolate on the outside. And you're just going to put a Rolo on top of each of the snap pretzels. I have preheated the oven to 350 degrees, and these aren't in there very long at all. Maybe like 2 to 3 minutes just to soften the Rolo a little bit.
The other thing you might want to do ahead of time, unless you want to open each individual Rolo, is Cathy opened all the Rolos before we got here today.
It's because I wanted to eat some.
No. This would be a good thing to do when you were like, it's a mindless task. You could be listening to an audiobook or some music.
Nope, they didn't unwrap enough.
Well, the masks really cut down on your snacking.
They do, don't they?
Yeah.
You can't taste test as much, can you? Okay. Well, our oven is almost up to temperature.
How long do those stay in the oven?
Just about 2 to 3 minutes.
Yeah. So this is a good one to make sure you set a timer, because whenever something goes in the oven for only a little while, I always forget.
And we're going to make these look like Christmas lights by just putting a little M&M on the top of the Rolo. Kind of festive, say. So we'll get our M&Ms open. You could use just red and green too, but I kind of like the Christmas light idea. Won't take too long. Oh, I can already see the chocolate is starting to
slump and melt
soften a little bit. It gets a little gloss on it. What do you think, Rosie?
It looks pretty melty.
Ooh,
maybe a
little longer.
I think so. Pretty good. So that didn't take very long at all.
Make sure you don't put hot pans on your countertop. Put them on some surface that is protected.
So your stovetop, or you could put down a pot holder.
And then just put an M&M on the top. And that chocolate will harden again. And fold the M&M in, kind of like glue. And then these will cool. And And because the chocolate has melted, it will also make the Rolo stick to your pretzel.
Did you ever do that in school where you had a bag and you figured out the ratios of the different colors?
Oh, yeah, you could do that too for
Some math.
some math. Yep. How many blue ones there are, how many red ones there are, how many orange ones there are for the total number that there are.
Yeah. It's a good way to learn some fractions. Baking teaches you all sorts of really good lessons, doesn't it?
So we'll just let these cool a little bit before we take them off the baking sheet so the chocolate can harden. Okay. The last thing that we're going to make is some little Christmas mice. And you might just want to make one of these to put in a basket and kind of hide. But they're just so cute.
They're adorable. We've also made them for Valentine's Day, little Valentine's Day mice too. So this is one you can pull out for other holidays too. So
what you'll need to find at the store are maraschino cherries with a stem on them. It's important that they have a stem because that's going to become the mouse's tail. Okay? And so you'll dip your maraschino cherry in the chocolate, and then you're going to just set it on a little cookie. This happens to be a vanilla wafer.
You could also make your own little sugar cookies, though, if you were so inclined. Yeah.
And then you'll take a chocolate kiss, and the chocolate kiss actually becomes the mouse's face and nose. And I'm just going to hold it there for just a little while until the chocolate starts to harden a little bit. And the last ingredient in these are slivered almonds or sliced almonds. Sliced almonds are sliced the lengthwise way. So you get these little slivers, and these are going to become the mouse's ears. And so I'm going to just dip that in a little bit of my melted chocolate. And I'm going to position them between the chocolate cherry and my kiss. And then let it dry. And what you get is a little Christmas mouse, or a Valentine's mouse, like Rose said. Which are fun to just hide into a little Christmas basket.
Yeah.
So
lots of good ways to use up your chocolate. You could do your little mice last if you have little tidbits left, because you don't need a ton of chocolate, just enough to coat the cherries.
Right.
You could also make little white mice. They'd be the kind of dual colored mice, but if you had the white Hershey's Kisses, you could also make little white mice too.
I'll give you a base. Small Oreos would work good for these as well. There's your kiss. This guy. And then again, use the almonds for the ears. Nice job.
Cute little mice. I love how their little tails have so much little personality too.
They can have a little mouse party.
Yeah. So last thing we're going to do before we tell you to have a Merry Christmas is to show you how you might package a few of these things up to give for gifts. Like Cathy said, you probably would just want to put the mice on a little cookie sheet or a cookie plate. You could make a few little mice and put them together on a little cookie plate too. With the marshmallows and some of our sticks, we have these cellophane bags. I have chocolate all over my hands. We have these cellophane bags that you can just stick. You gotta wait till they're dry. And then you peel them off your wax paper. You could stick one in here. And then kind of crinkle them up like that. And then we have some ribbon or some twisty ties over here. So whatever you have at home you could use. Sometimes I keep a lot of twisty ties, have a lot to reuse.
Right. Pretzel sticks, like Rose mentioned before, can just go into a bag as well. You might put 2 or 3 sticks together. Maybe if you're giving them to a family, it might be a stick per person in the family, and you could gauge it that way. And again, you could tie it, you could twist tie it. These are pretty hefty pretzel sticks, so I don't think my twist tie is going to work. I might need a piece of ribbon for this one too, Rosie. You need a scissor?
Mm-hmm. Let's see. And again, you could, get a cute little mug to go with this, some packages of hot chocolate. That could be a really kind of cute gift.
I'll tie this around my pretzel sticks.
And then we actually ended up putting our Rolo pretzels in the...
I just took them out.
Oh.
Yep, they're right on the counter there, so.
It's going well. And you could actually use the same little cellophane bags for all of the little treats we made to save you on, running to the store. And you'll see we've got our little Christmas light things here. All right.
Well, thank you for joining us for Kids Cook. We hope that you can make some of these for your family and friends. And then we hope that you join us next week, actually, when we do some scones, some granola, some salted caramel sauce, and
some peanut butter blossoms. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks. Have a good Christmas.